So, imagine this. You're Cleopatra. You don't have armies ready to storm Rome, but you walk into Julius Caesar's court rolled up in a carpet. And just like that, boom, the attention is yours. You didn't yell or make demands, but you've shifted the entire dynamic. Isn't that just, I don't know, pure brilliance?
It's extraordinary, really. What Cleopatra did wasn't just about theatrics, it was calculated. That silent move, so literally quiet and bold, placed her directly in Caesar's focus. It's a kind of power that isn't about fighting to be seen, but about commanding the moment by, well, creating it.
Right, and it wasn't just for effect. That kind of restraint is almost like a precursor to influencing without force. She didn't shout her intentions, she demonstrated them. It's this unspoken narrative that says, I'm not here to argue, I'm here to make a statement louder than words. I don't know, pure brilliance.
Exactly. If you think about it, Einstein embodied a similar quiet strength in his work, didn't he? He wasn't out there in the public square shouting his theories from the rooftops, or debating every critic.
No, he just let the work speak for itself.
Precisely. When relativity was first met with skepticism, Einstein didn't engage in shouting matches. He waited. He invited questions and used that quiet, deliberate patience to let his ideas resonate over time. And as history shows, good ideas, when left to settle, tend to rise above the noise.
I love that. Because it's like, there's confidence in silence, isn't there? It's almost like saying, I don't need to prove myself. The outcome will do that for me. And Sun Tzu takes this to like a completely different level with his whole win before the fight even starts philosophy.
It's a fascinating parallel. Sun Tzu's The Art of War is at its core, as I see it, a manual for mastering restraint. He advocated for positioning yourself so strategically that your enemy is defeated, without you ever needing to lift a sword. It's restraint as the ultimate weapon.
And isn't that just insane to think about? A whole philosophy built on not fighting. When he talks about outsmarting your opponent before you clash, it all reflects back to this idea that silence, inaction even, can be far more devastating than a head-on conflict.
I think what ties all these figures together, Cleopatra, Einstein, Sun Tzu, is that ability to stay measured. They didn't expend energy needlessly. They dictated the terms, the timing, and even in some ways the perception of their power.
Yeah, and that's the part that gets me. Silence isn't just absence. It's control, right? Like silence isn't just absence. It's a deliberate action. And most of the time, conflict happens when someone feels like they're losing that sense of control. So they lash out. But silence, it flips the dynamic completely. It's like saying, I'm holding the reins, even if it doesn't look like it.
Absolutely. And underneath that loss of control is often fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being seen as weak. It's fascinating because, on the surface, it looks like strength, fighting to prove you're right. But beneath that, it's vulnerability disguised as power.
Right. And to be honest, I've been there. I mean, recently I got into this disagreement with a friend of mine about, you're going to laugh, pizza toppings.
Pizza toppings?
Yeah, I know. So I'm on Team Pineapple. We'll just leave that there. But what stuck with me wasn't the argument itself. It was how quickly I went from debating the topping to defending myself, if that makes sense. Like, suddenly it wasn't about the pizza. It was about pride.
It makes perfect sense. You end up pouring so much energy into proving your point that you forget why you started debating in the first place.
Exactly. And then, this is where it clicked for me. I paused. I took this beat, this tiny moment of silence, just to breathe and ask myself, why am I so worked up about this? And Eric, I'm telling you, it was like a switch flipped.
So what happened next?
Well, instead of reacting, I just listened, and it completely changed the dynamic. Suddenly, it wasn't about pineapple anymore.
But about connection.
Exactly. My friend actually looked surprised, like, by not pushing back, I gave space for their perspective. And here's the wild part. We ended up laughing about it.
That right there is the magic of restraint. When you step back, even for a moment, it disrupts the cycle of reaction. Instead of escalating, it de-escalates and opens up. You know, this possibility for real dialogue.
Totally. And I think for a lot of people, just recognizing those triggers, that's the hard part. Like, how often do we actually pause long enough to ask, am I reacting emotionally or am I responding thoughtfully?
It's rare but so impactful. Taking a breath, even a pause that feels like nothing, can shift an entire conversation. It's almost like you're giving yourself the time to recalibrate, to reflect on what really matters.
And it's funny, isn't it? Those little pauses, they become so much louder than if you just kept talking. It's like saying, without really saying, I'm not rushing to react because my response matters.
Exactly. And I think mastering that silence is not just about arguments, it's about reclaiming control in the middle of potential chaos. It's how we turn reactions into, well, meaningful actions. Reflecting on what we've just discussed, it strikes me that silence isn't just about stepping back. It's about stepping into something more powerful. It feels less like avoidance and more like a deliberate, almost tactical, move to steer a conversation in a healthier direction. Wouldn't you agree?
Not at all. It's totally active. Like when we think of silence, we tend to picture someone backing down or, avoiding conflict altogether. But
it's the opposite, actually.
Exactly. It's about choosing where to focus your energy. It's less about letting go of control and more about steering the moment without wasting yourself.
Right, like in negotiations or even day-to-day conversations. Restraint isn't about silence for the sake of silence. It's about creating space for reflection, for connection, and sometimes for the other person to reconsider their own position.
You hit it right on the head. It's like stepping back from the noise lets you see the bigger picture. I mean, think of leaders like Cleopatra or even Einstein. They didn't just respond to whatever was thrown at them. They chose their moments carefully, and that's what made their responses so powerful.
Absolutely, and it's not just historical greats either. It's something we can all practice. But it's not easy, is it?
No way. I mean, when emotions get involved, it feels impossible to pause, doesn't it? But taking that beat, even if it's the smallest moment, can completely change the dynamic of a discussion.
And that choice, to pause rather than react, that's incredibly powerful. It's saying, I value the outcome more than I value being right in the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard mindset shift. But when you do it, when you practice that kind of control, your responses become so much more impactful. It's like you stop wasting energy on arguments that don't matter, and you save it for the battles that do.
Exactly, Jason. And think about how that changes not just the outcome, but the relationships involved. Like you said earlier, silence creates space for connection. It's not just strength, it's influence in its deepest form.
Totally. And I love the idea that history's greatest minds, Cleopatra, Einstein, Sun Tzu, even Socrates, they all understood that real power isn't about getting the last word. It's about shaping the conversation so profoundly that no one even remembers the shouting match.
Well said. And for everyone listening, maybe the next time you find yourself in a situation where you're tempted to defend, to argue, or to prove something, pause, take a breath and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this the battle I want to fight?
Because sometimes the strongest move you can make is staying quiet, and that silence, it speaks volumes.
On that note, we hope this episode gave you something to reflect on. Silence isn't just absence, it's a strategy, a tool, and at times the greatest strength you can wield.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Let us know your thoughts. Have you ever chosen silence over arguing? What happened? We'd love to hear from you.
And be sure to join us next time for another exploration into the intricacies of life, philosophy, and the power of the human mind. Until then, take care, and of course, stay thoughtful.